Hi everybody, Randy here. I am ready for a milestone. I'm going to with some family help, going to put the body onto the chassis today. And I thought that before I covered everything up, this was a good opportunity to do a little bit of a walk around and talk about some of the things on the car. My delivery date it was ready November 18th, but it was delivered 12/7/23, so it's been a year. I didn't really work on it during the summer, but with the exception of the summer, I've been working on it, most days. So, it took me 10 months to get to this point, working pretty hard. I have no experience with this sort of thing at all. The build school was invaluable to me to learn a lot of not to really learn the skills, but to sort of understand what was involved. Learning the skills, that came from watching YouTubes, looking at the build threads, and talking to guys who have built this car. Some of the guys who've been incredibly helpful to me are Mike Forte, who sold me that Coyote engine and the Tremec T56 Magnum transmission that's in there, and Paul Borer, aka Edward B., who has the best build thread on the Factory 5 forum. I highly recommend studying that if you plan on building this car. And a couple of guys who were just, regular builders like you and me, Scott Pregant and Tim Custer, have been very helpful to me in terms of giving me advice and giving me tips and stuff like that. I enjoy talking to them. These are guys I did not know before I did this. So the community, the Factory 5 community, has been an unexpected pleasure of the project beyond just building the car itself. So let me just give you a quick tour of what's going on here. Let's start underneath the car with the stuff we can't see. It's got an independent, it's got the IRS and Willwood brakes. My very first mistake when I first started building the car was when I was assembling the Willwood brakes. I was assembling them on that workbench over there, and I did not have a towel or any kind of protection down on the bench, and I completely scratched up the entire brake hat, and it just looked terrible, and it was the very first thing I had done, and I was just crushed. But Mike Forte was able to sell me a single unit, so I did that one over again. I also screwed up my drilling. You have to enlarge one of the holes on the IRS knuckles when you're doing the suspension. And I had a fantastic 5/8 inch reamer bit. I think that's the size. But I got a little overzealous with the reaming, and I made the hole too big, and it was at the wrong angle. And I sent the whole knuckle back to Mike Forte, and he had a guy who was able to weld aluminum and fix the hole, and it's better than new. So thanks, Mike, for that. But the point is that you make mistakes. Everything's fixable. They're just metal parts. So let's talk about the engine bay a little bit. This is a Gen 4 cover for the Gen 3 engine. A lot of guys talk about how the Gen 3 engine cover is pretty ugly, doesn't fit under the hood of the car, has to be cut down. I like the Gen 4 cover, and they sell these little adapters that enable it to fit on the Gen 3 engine. I look at this and I cannot believe that I installed this because I knew absolutely nothing. But once you get going, you figure it out. I'm particularly proud of my my Gen 3 coolant expansion tank. This I think is the Moroso tank. But there's nowhere to mount it here. It wants to be bolted to this, but how do you screw into that? Edward B. devised a bracket that he made, that I copied, that was some pretty involved fabrication, actually, and it mounts underneath, and I can't get over how I did this perfectly. The cap comes right to here. There's no space under there. This thing is solid as hell. I was so proud of it that when I had it powder coated, it is the only thing on the whole car that's not powder coated black. It's powder coated gray so that it stands out a little, because I just freaking love that thing. Couple of other things. I put these remote battery terminals in because the battery terminals are really far down there. And, you know, if I had to jump the car, I wouldn't want to stick my arm in here. So I got these remote battery terminals. They're also good for charging. And I've got, I've grounded some things to the ground cable here. So that's been convenient. What else is noteworthy? You know, people put a lot of nutserts into these cars to screw things in. I did the removable foot box cover here, which is very popular mod. But I didn't use nutserts to connect this. I tapped the frame, and I was talking to Mike Everson, who's also been very helpful. And Mike Everson said, Randy, just tap the frame. And once you learn to tap, you're going to want to tap everything, he said. Well, let me tell you something. He's right. It is so easy to tap threads into these things. And you can screw stuff directly into the steel. So you're not worried about stripping threads like you would be in an aluminum nutsert. And the nutserts also have a way of getting loose. The only place on this whole car where I have nutserts is here for the air conditioning access. And to be honest, I did a terrible job. A couple of them stripped. They're not really well aligned. I can get this off and I can get it back on, but it doesn't screw in nicely and easily. One of them I completely stripped, and I actually had to put JB Weld in there and tap the JB Weld, which you can tap JB Weld. And so it's a little bit of a hybrid, you know, so this didn't come out great, but not everything can. I got this Coyote computer cover from Fat Boy Garage, I think it's called. I found this sticker on Amazon, and I just put the sticker on, and I turned it into it looks like it came that way. Proud of that. The windshield wiper motor. This is the Specialty Motor Products, I think it's called. Specialty Products windshield wiper motor. Same one that Edward B. used. Scott Pregant advised me that this really needed to not be on the firewall, but needed to be out in space a little bit. So I thought about it a little while, and I actually made this bracket. It's got angle on the bottom. The mounting bracket that came with the wiper motor is here. I actually powder coated it black. And I made this piece on top that goes to the firewall. A year ago, if you told me that I would be fabricating brackets out of metal, I would have thought you were nuts. And now it's some of my favorite stuff on the car. Little windshield washer thing. I don't think there's anything else that interesting in the engine bay. It was a big milestone, obviously, to put the engine in. Oh, let's talk about the radiator. So I got the Breeze shroud and had all of this powder coated, I used heat shrink clamps here. I just think it's a clean look. I got radiator paint, and I painted the exposed sides of the radiator black to go with my black theme. I'm black here, but I didn't paint the center section. I don't know if, the paint was gonna change the efficiency of the radiator at all. And I just didn't think that the area that was actually covered by the fan was gonna be too visible anyway. So I didn't do that. I just did the one little exposed stripe. In the front here, we've got it's still taped up, but this is the condenser for the air conditioning system. It's mounted on the front. This actually came black, so that's kind of cool. This is not the condenser that came with the car. The condenser that comes with the car doesn't fit. I can't remember. I think it was too wide. So the fittings protruded, and it just didn't work. And there was actually a lot on the blog, on the build threads about that, and people recommended what the right one was to buy. It was easy to get, wasn't that expensive, and the new one fit beautifully. So, you're building a car, everything's got to fit. And I think that there are some issues with the nose and these fittings that I'll experience once we get there, which is probably coming in the next week or two. But I got this fitting to be able to fit between, which is, I think, what it needs to be, or is the preferred location. And that was only possible with this condenser. What else? All right, let's talk about electrical. This is all exposed right now. The dashboard, I'm waiting to put the dashboard in for after the body's on, because the dashboard, I think the instructions say that the dashboard should lay underneath the body like this, but some people have laid it on top. I think I might prefer the way it looks laying on top, but more importantly, it seems to me that it will be easier to remove from the car after the body's on if it lays on top. And I need to, I want to be able to remove it. I want to be able to access all my electrical. And also I haven't upholstered the dash yet, and I need to be able to put it in later after it's upholstered. The reason I haven't upholstered it yet is because I bought matching upholstery from Corbeau, which are the seats that I'm using. They're not in right now. And they sold matching fabric, but it was like a month's lead time, several months of lead time. So I'm still waiting for it. It'll come eventually. Electrical, when I first opened up the box with all the wiring harnesses, I was one confused puppy. I had no idea what I was looking at. But if you stare at the drawings long enough and you look at enough videos, it starts to make sense. And once it makes sense, you can do anything. The electrical, I think, was my favorite part of doing the car. I made this instrument panel that's going to go under here. This is sort of temporary because I think I want to buy some replacement switches and maybe do something different with the air conditioning switches like others have done. But I felt like I wanted to live with it first before I figured out what switches I wanted to use. So I just made a little temporary panel that's going to go in. Once I figure out what I want to do, I'll make the nicer one that's got sides like Edward B did. I actually bent the aluminum already. Soundproofing. This is the Second Skin Damplifier Pro. Seems like good stuff. It's a little pricey, but frankly, I liked that it was black because it's going to be exposed for a long time, and I didn't want to see all the silver foil. I've already carpeted the foot boxes. That was an adventure, but you definitely, if you're building the coupe, you want to carpet the inside of your foot boxes before you close up the side of your foot boxes so that you can really get in there. Some thoughts about the transmission tunnel. The transmission tunnel aluminum doesn't fit great. It is a super duper tight fit. It's Velcroed on right now. I had to like cut away here because these were interfering with each other and it's not a clean edge. And I was trying to think about, how in the world am I going to upholster this, which is going to add an 1/8 inch of foam underneath, plus have the carpeting and have it all fit under here, and also have a nice clean edge on this structural item and have it be removable. And I think what I've decided is I'm going to make this semi-removable. I'm going to rivet this without glue and let this be structural, and then I'm going to upholster a decorative piece that's going to be slightly wider and slightly longer so that it can Velcro directly on top of this and just hang down on the sides, and it'll cover the edges. And since it'll just be decorative and it won't be such a tight fit, I'll be able to have a nice clean corners and stuff like that. So As of now, my plan is a decorative overlay panel with the upholstery and let this be structural. These are not attached yet, so I can get the body on. I'm pretty proud of this bracket that I made. I made this whole courtesy light situation. Right now, the courtesy lights are on in the car, but if I turn them off, so now this, I had to modify the switch so that it could be a switched ground. And so it either grounds to its own ground, or if it's quote unquote off, now it shares the ground with the courtesy lights. So if I turn the courtesy lights on, it goes on. And I'm also gonna wire it to some switches in the doors that will switch the ground. If the door opens, the courtesy lights will come on. That's my plan. I'm also putting door poppers in this car. So here's the door popper control module, and here are the wires that will power the door poppers. And my plan is when I walk up to the car, if I press the remote and the doors pop open, not only will the door pop open, but because there's a ground switch in the hinge, the courtesy lights will come on inside the car. These are the things that I'm focused on at 2 o'clock in the morning when I'm laying in bed. I did a drop trunk. Came out pretty good. Proud of that. Made that. Got to figure out the carpeting situation. It's not going to get carpeted till after it's painted. You can't see anything what's going on under the car, but it's got the IRS. Suspension. One thing that's I'm having an issue with the suspension. I did the alignment, and I read a lot of stuff online, and I watched a lot of YouTubes, and I bought the alignment equipment. Those are the toe plates. And I don't know, I think I got like a B+ on the alignment here, but there's a couple of things. First of all, my ride height, I can't get consistent. Like this shock is screwed down way more than this shock, and I can't get my ride height even. And even when I got the alignment correct to like within a half a degree, after I lowered the car and it sat for a day, it changed. So I don't know, but it's close enough that I can drive to an alignment shop and have it done professionally. That's pretty much what I got. Put this wiring through from here up to here. Coyote accelerator. For those of you building with a Coyote engine, let me turn the lights on again. This accelerator pedal is a little bit of a bitch because the connector that comes out the top of it wants to point directly at the steering shaft, right? So guys fix that problem by either rotating it that way or that way. I thought, why not change the angle of the actual connector? And what I did was, and it took some bravery, I cut the plastic away very, very carefully all the way around the base of the connector to expose the metal pins, and then I bent it. And then I sealed it up with some silicone. And so now the connector is diagonal instead of coming straight out the top. And that was my solution. I know. Look at me. Look at me. I can't believe I did it. So, that's it. I don't know. I can't think of anything else for right now, but if you have any questions, please feel free to hit me up on Facebook. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm posting on Instagram, RB Daytona. at RB Daytona. And that's what I have for you guys. So everyone enjoy your builds. Happy New Year.